The road was long and hard. 5 weeks, 5 cities, 5 races, coast to coast. Dave Villwock's win at the Gold Cup in Detroit seems a year ago. Then south to Norfolk, Virginia, and the same result. West to the Tri-Cities of Washington, and it was Budweiser again. But then we moved north to Kelowna, British Columbia, and a different ending starring Mark Evans and the Pico American Dream. Now the brutal trail ends here in Seattle, Washington. The end of 5 weeks of broken props, wounded wings, and burned up engines. One thrash after another, they keep going because you never know. Welcome to ESPN Speed World coverage of the 1998 Ralph's UHRA Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas. Coming to you from the Texaco Cup at Seafair on Lake Washington in Seattle. And if one thing is for certain here, it's that nothing is for certain. Hello, everybody. I'm John Nicholson. A couple weeks ago, you'd have thought Budweiser and Dave Villwock were unbeatable. Then, in Kelowna, Bud not only didn't win, the team came in third. The other drivers ganging up on Villwock. The question here is it payback time or can they do it again? That's what we're here to find out. And speaking of nothing being for certain, how about checking out a real long shot? Let's go to my partner, Steve Montgomery.
Well, John, if we're going to pick a long shot, let's pick a long shot. This morning's Seattle Times, handicapping the field, had Bob Fendler's U19, the Easter Seals, which joined us for the Western Swing a couple of weeks ago, at 500 to 1. The driver is last year's Rookie of the Year, 54-year-old Jerry Hale. They got some sponsorship help here in Seattle from Chaplin's Volkswagen and qualified at a respectable 137 miles per hour. It's a Leland hull, a pretty good ride. You get all that dicing and pushing before the final heat begins. Anything can happen, and it would be a long shot. Let's go back to John now for a recap of Heat 1A.
The story in Heat 1A seemed to be the confrontation between Dave Villwock and the Budweiser and Steve David and Freddie's bad blood between them a week before in Kelowna, and David actually had beaten Villwock in the final. But there turned out to be a surprise in this heat, and the surprise was this boat, Graham Trucking, with Mike Weber driving.
Coming up to the start, Villwock and the Budweiser came to the outside here in Heat 1A. He figured he had the speed and the power to overtake the rest of the boats. As we look at the starting lineup, Jerry Hale driving the Chaplin's VW Easter Seals. Ken Muscatel, sponsored this week by Tweeton's RV Mart. Good start, though, for Steve David in the Freddy's Club. And an even better start for Mike Weber in the Graham Trucking. Three boats strong around the first turn, and it was Weber racing out to the lead down the backstretch.
Mike and Laurie Jones, much improved boat, being driven very well by Mike Weber, who did lead much of the first lap. But then, as the boats came down to finish the first lap, it was the Red Rocket, Miss Budweiser, Dave Villwock taking the lead. He would not give up.
When you see that red boat coming in your mirrors, you've got to think, oh no. Villwock cruising later on in Heat 1A and takes the 400 points for his first win of the day. This is the place that Dave's accustomed to being. Didn't turn out that way in Kelowna last week in a couple of heats, including the final. But a very strong showing for Mike Weber in the Graham Trucking, coming in second in Heat 1A. And Dr. Ken Muscatel, you got to look for him all the time, third here in the Tweeton's RV Mart. Steve David wound up fourth, driving the Freddy's Club. 400 points for the Bud, 300 for Graham Trucking. And we go down to the dock where Steve Montgomery talked with Mike Weber.
Mike, a great start. Perfect heat except for a little encroachment. You know when that happened?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about, to tell you the truth.
News you don't want to hear yet, but the start was perfect.
Yeah, that was an 05-liter start. We laid back a little bit and hit it right on. And boat's running good. It almost got away from me once in the backstretch, but we're running real good. I'm happy.
In Heat 1B, all the top qualifiers except Budweiser faced off against each other, including last week's winner in Kelowna, Mark Evans in the Pico American Dream. But in this heat, it was Mark's brother Mitch in the Appian Geronimo and Nate Brown in Lumar window film, the boats to watch. Coming up to the start, you see right now the yellow boat, Lumar window film, Nate Brown to the outside. Pico now comes up outside of him. On the inside, it was Appy and Geronimo, and then Jimmy King in the Elam Plus in lane 2 as they headed for the start. And a good start by Nate Brown in the Lumar window film, got a bit of an edge. Mark Evans came after him here in the Pico American Dream, but look at Brown move out.
That Lumar boat has good shoot speed, as we've said before, but in the turn right here, the Appy and Geronimo on the inside, using that advantage, will take the lead. And this boat, John, is starting to show the promise we had been looking for in the first half of the season.
Mitch Evans has been driving turbine boats just a couple of years. Before that, 9 years driving the piston-powered U3, the Cooper boat. So really, he doesn't have all that much experience and seems to get better week by week.
And I think that's a very good point. Mitch has relatively little turbine seat time, and as he gets more, that team's going to be very tough.
Here is Mitch Evans as he came around to take the checkered flag in Heat 1B. A terrific job of driving for him, but a long day ahead. Very smooth by Mitch Evans. Second place to Nate Brown in the Lumar window film, who got a good start but was not able to keep up with Appy and Geronimo. And Jimmy King in the Elam Plus. Racing only 3 events this year is the Elam, the Elstrom team. Checking the results, Pico American Dream is last after winning last week in Kelowna. Steve talked with both the Evans brothers, first with Mark.
Mark, the last time we talked to you, you were first. This did not look like the same boat.
Oh, we're just working up to it. You know, we're just kind of watching, see what the guys are up to, and picking our way through and getting ready for the final.
Yeah, but 4th place.
Well, hey, now, you know, anything can happen. Did you happen to be at Kelowna here last week? Anything can happen in boat racing. Thank you, guys.
Mitch, a great start, a great boat ride. Second heat win, I think.
Yeah, it's great. Like I say, the boat's handling good. Decided to go in there, mix it up, do a little drag start. I couldn't let my brother get inside of me, so got a great boat here. So got out front, and not much challenge after that.
ESPN Speed World coverage of the Texaco Cup at Seafair is brought to you by Ralph's, first in savings, first in Southern California. By Las Vegas, anything can happen and usually does when it comes to special events. And by O'Doul's non-alcoholic brew. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. Welcome back to Seattle. There are those who think this is Louis the Lizard rooting on the Budweiser boat. Actually, it's a neighborhood iguana with a good seat for the races. Down on the docks, Peter Thompson, the UHRA, with his Wheel of Fortune, checking to make sure the prop size is okay. We go to Steve now to set us up with the highlights of Heat 2A.
You remember in the open of the show, we talked about long shots. What would happen if everybody, including Miss Budweiser, were to jump the gun and Jerry Hale in the Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals boat were the only legal starter? Well, guess what happened in Heat 2A?
That was a pretty broad hint as we watch them coming up to the starting line for Heat 2A. The starting lineups showing Miss Elam Plus with Jimmy King, the Budweiser, Dave Villwalk. He had a false start back at the Gold Cup in Detroit. The only heat he lost before last week. Graham Trucking and Tweeton's RV Mart also in the race. And sure enough, the only boat not to jump the gun, the only driver not to go too soon, Jerry Hale in the Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals.
Bob Fendler's boat really riding pretty well, and Jerry actually had the confidence to stay back knowing the other boats were early, and it paid off here. This has happened before in unlimited racing, and it'll happen again.
So all Jerry Hale had to do at that point was keep the boat running strong and not let the other fast boats catch up with him. It was only a 3-lap heat, therefore you figured he'd be able to do it. And indeed he was. Nice drive by Jerry here.
Last year's Rookie of the Year at age 54, obviously has to be 55 now, and a very nice job of just keeping his composure by Jerry Hale.
And so it was Jerry taking the checkered flag in the Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals. A popular result, particularly, of course, in Bob Fendler's camp. They've been working hard to get up close to the top, and here an actual heat win. Not to mention, it makes my partner Steve Montgomery look like a visionary because this is the exact scenario that he predicted. As we check the results, 700 points after 2 heats for Miss Budweiser because it was second in this one. And Steve talked with both guys on the dock.
Bob Fendler, it's been a while since a heat victory for you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve, but the credit really goes to Jerry. I was so proud of him, and the most important thing when you're driving on a clock start is to be able to do your own thing, and he surely did it.
Jerry, did they look early to you?
Oh, yeah. I had him over.
We predicted something like this in the open to the show, but we thought it'd be in the final heat.
Yeah, that's still a possibility.
Okay, thanks, guys. We got a whoops.
Oh, I don't know about that. They're saying that they have no camera, so I don't know. We thought that we made a good start, but so who knows? Once again, in unlimited history, maybe we don't have the equipment we should.
Okay, thank you.
Mitch Evans and Appian Geronimo look to be solid favorites to win a second consecutive heat in 2B. The question turned out to be, how solid would the boat be?
And the field was very early coming down to the start line. We see them creeping along, trying not to cross that line in the water before the clock ticks down. The start, though, was legal, John.
They were taking a lesson from Heat 2A, where everybody except Jerry Hale came early. So here it was at the start, and a good one for Mitch Evans once again in the Appian Geronimo.
Steve David in the Freddy's Club had the inside advantage, but that tremendous boat speed by the Appian Geronimo gave him the lead right here at the apex of the first turn.
And the yellow boat to the outside, Nate Brown in the Lumar window film in third.
Steve David actually came out of the first turn first in the Freddy's Club. As the Pico dropped back a bit, it was brother Mitch on the outside. And look at the boat speed from the Appian Geronimo.
Later on in the heat, some problems for the Appian Geronimo, still out ahead, but look at the broken strut there on the tail feather nearest you, and then right off the top, it all comes apart.
That wing could have done a lot of damage. You see it just missed the Pico American Dream as it landed in the water.
And the Pico then stopped. Mark Evans said a flare went up, and so he thought he was supposed to stop. Then he got started up again. It turned out he also got penalized for hitting a buoy. Now, the Appian Geronimo's tail assembly came apart, but the boat kept running and kept running in first place.
I thought we would see him slow down a bit. No noticeable disadvantage here as far as boat speed for Mitch Evans.
So it's another heat win, or was, in Heat 2B for Appian Geronimo. Steve David and the Freddy's Club managed to come in second. A good run for Steve, just not fast enough for the Appian Geronimo. And then coming behind them, what looks like a race here, but actually not, Nate Brown takes third because Pico has been penalized a lap and has to go around again. It was indeed third place for Lumar window film. These guys just like to go after each other. A race is a race is a race. There's the high wing from the Appian Geronimo. Here are the high points. Perfect so far. And down on the dock, Steve Montgomery talked with Steve David.
Steve David,
Yeah, man.
second place points look pretty good right now.
Yeah, they do. We're just, creeping up on the day. Freddy's is going to win this thing in the final. We just got to do better with each heat, and that time the guys gave me a real good bullet.
Fortunately, you never saw the red flag that was displayed for a moment there.
I knew it was an error. I knew his wing was off, but you don't stop a race for that. So unless my radio guy says stop, we just keep racing.
We will continue to race as the boats are on the water for Heat 3A as our Speed World coverage continues. Welcome back to the Ralph's Thunder Tour presented by Las Vegas. John Nicholson and Steve Montgomery at the Texaco Cup at Seafair in Seattle on Lake Washington. The Budweiser here in lane 2 coming up at the start of Heat 3A. Ken Muscatel on the inside of the Tweetens RV Mart. Then to the outside, it is the Easter Seals, Chaplin's Volkswagen, and Jimmy King in the Elam Plus in between the Bud and the Easter Seals.
Dave Vilwalk very well positioned in lane 2. He does have some pretty good shoot speed inside of him with the good doctor over there in the U14. But the Budweiser, as we've seen so many times this year, John, at full song, at start-finish. But look at the field, keeping up with him.
Jimmy King in the Elam Plus qualified third, 5 miles an hour slower than the Budweiser, but here's a view that Dave Villwock is used to. Nothing but water out in front of him on Lake Washington.
He's also headed up for the north end of the race course, which can get lumpy and bumpy as the waves come back off the log boom. A pretty good look at the race course right there.
Ken Muscatel in the inside lane, Jimmy King in lane 3. As we look from the O'Doul's eye in the sky, you see Muscatel keeping it tight to the buoys, trying to move up on Budweiser and also trying to hold off Jimmy King. Dave takes it a bit wide in the Bud. First lap average, look at that, 142.5 miles an hour.
And give Dave credit, he left a lot of room for Ken Muscatel. He probably had the 5 boat length overlap, but left a lane for the doctor to run in and keep the boat race alive.
Here's Jimmy King now coming to the outside of the Bud. Ken Muscatel has disappeared in the spray, and there we just see him behind the Bud, and Jimmy King now is in second place in the Elam Plus.
Great shot once again. This is the cockpit view from the Miss Budweiser, the log boom off on your right. And again, they head up into the north end of the race course, which historically is where problems can occur here in Seattle.
Dave Villwock qualified the Miss Budweiser here this weekend at 156.508 miles an hour. As fast as that is, 6 miles an hour slower than Chip Hanauer's course record of 162 plus in 1995. That was before the N2 limiter. From the O'Doul's eye in the sky, we see Jimmy King coming closer to Dave Villwock, but not closing all that much water on him. Pretty difficult to do at this point.
Still a very much improved boat ride for the Elstrom camp. This is the boat that last year in Seattle hopped right on top of Miss Budweiser. That thing would not go where Jimmy King pointed it. It certainly does now.
And of course, at that time, Mark Webber was driving the Miss Bud because of the injury to Dave Villwock. Here's Ken Muscatel coming around in third place still.
And I like the fact that they're still leaving room for Ken running back there in third place to run on the inside.
It's just a little rough out the front of Dave Villwock's view.
Almost 100,000 spectators on that log boom off to Dave Villwock's right as he comes up the back straightaway.
Once more around the final turn from the O'Doul's eye in the sky. A look at the very nice ride that Dave Villwock is giving the big red boat heading for the checkered flag, and you hear the whistles and applause on the shore. There's your winner, Budweiser, 2 out of 3, blemished only by the false start in Heat 2. Jimmy King in the Elam Plus will take second in Heat 3A. Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals, Jerry Hale, 4th after winning Heat 2 when everybody else started too soon. And you total up the points, it's 1,100 so far for Miss Budweiser. Steve on the dock with Dave.
David, it's official. You won that heat.
It's official? Are we sure? Well, yeah, we're trying to get those points racked up. You know, we're after the war right now, and that's the world championship. And Seattle would just be another diamond in that ring if we could pull it off. So we're going to throw everything we got at the last heat. The guys got just a little bit more left in there. We're going to run Miss Budweiser real hard in the final. You can count on that.
Ernie, these Seattle races sometimes get a little wild and wacky. This one hasn't been too bad so far.
No, it's been pretty good, in fact, but he just gave me a little message, something about a diamond.
Perhaps not too wild and wacky because this boat, the Freddy's, was not in the heat. It will be in the next one. We'll see how it goes when our Speed World coverage continues. Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas. The Texaco Cup at Seafair. 4 minutes plus to go to the start of Heat 3B as we look at Mitch Evans and the Appian Geronimo. Perfect so far. 2 for 2 in the heats today.
And speaking of qualifying speeds, they actually ran a lap faster than Miss Budweiser's this weekend in qualifying. Had it taken away with an N2 violation, but we know they have a lot of boat speed. And this boat, sometimes, John, looks very good, the Pico.
The Evans brothers, Mitch and Mark, whom we saw a moment ago, a mystery in terms of the boats, because when they run well, they run very, very well, and when they don't, holy mackerel, what happened? Coming through the rollers, Steve and David in the Freddy's Club, the U2 Jim Harvey's boat.
They have a 4th place and a 2nd place in the Freddy's Club Prime Star boat. Look for them to step it up a little. This boat has been running very, very well, particularly in the straightaways, and Nate Brown is one tough little competitor.
Nate Brown, a terrific competitor, also a pretty good boat builder and fixer.
Now these guys, Fred Leland's team, the Pico American Dream, have put a lot of drama into the 1998 season by running like Jack the Bear half the time, limping around the rest of the time, and we never know at the start of any heat exactly what to expect from these guys. This will be interesting.
There have been open disagreements between owner Fred Leland and driver Mark Evans. Evans admitting sometimes he drives too aggressively for how the boat had been going till last week at Kelowna. He says they have fixed a computerized fuel flow problem, so that should be okay. Let's go down to the dock now where Steve is set to set up this heat for us and see who the factors should be.
The boats are on the water for the running of Heat 3B. Mitch Evans and the Appian Geronimo now becoming the force that we thought they would be earlier in the season. Can they keep a perfect day going right here? Well, they got some speed to contend with. There's brother Mark in the Pico American Dream. Steve David in the Freddy's Club always has something up his sleeve. And, of course, Nate Brown and the Lumar boat have been very, very quick since entering the fray at mid-season. Let's see what happens here in Heat 3B.
As we look at Nate Brown driving the Lumar window film, we count down toward 2 minutes to the start of Heat 3B on Lake Washington here in Seattle. The water fairly smooth, but the boats are out there churning it up. Who will be the winner? Who will pick up some more points heading toward the final? We will find out in just a couple of minutes as our Speed World coverage continues. Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas, counting down to the start of Heat 3B here in the Texaco Cup at Seafair. Steve and David coming right at you in the Freddy's Club. On the inside is Nate Brown in the Lumar window film.
Everybody a little bit early once again. 17 seconds is too early to be at the exit pin, so they're moving slowly. Now they start to accelerate, and here comes the Pico on the outside.
And Appy and Geronimo all the way to the outside as they head for the start.
Good start. Right on the line.
Pico to the outside, gets off to a lead early, but again with the long way to go. Nate Brown on the inside, not bad. Appian falls back with Mitch Evans driving there all the way out.
Surprisingly, the Appian Geronimo getting left behind a little bit down the front straightaway. Their boat speed you would have thought would get him into the turn more quickly.
Steve and David has jumped ahead here in lane 2, and Pico's coming up on him in the outside of lane 3. A terrific boat race down the backstretch.
Both boats riding loose and fast into the turn at the north end of the course, getting into some bumps and lumps. Look at Nate Brown on the inside. Oh, Freddy's in the lookout. Oh, that is a...
Steve and David has gone upside down.
That is a terrible crash. Steve David got up in the air. The boat came loose, went over, and he landed very, very hard. The boat is floating upside down.
Rescue boats on the way already. So far, we do not see any sign of movement in the hatch on the underside of the boat, which, of course, now is upside down. The rescue boat should be there in a matter of seconds.
Just about in line with the skid fin that you see sticking up is where the hatch is in the bottom of the boat. The drivers are actually told not to try to get out themselves. Now here comes help. Steve David has taken his air mask and pressed it against his face, and he is hanging upside down and waiting for help. Now here's a replay of the actual crash as Steve David's boat, the Freddy's Club, got up into the air in the north turn, came dangerously close to the Pico as it came down. Another view from above. Now look for the skid fin roller right here that the boat is straddling. That's the problem. He just can't get it hooked up and get good contact with the water's surface. Now we'll go back to a lower angle and you'll see exactly how this accident develops. Right here, the boat a little loose, but Steve is in control. Now he straddles that roller. The left side hits it first, comes up a little bit, and now right here, the right sponson is going to deflect off the roller and go up in the air. The skid fin, though, is still in the water, so Steve is still driving the boat. At this point, it's getting a little too high, and right here, when the skid fin leaves the water, which we have highlighted, the boat is a leaf in the wind.
Nothing but luck at that point would bring the boat down right side up, and as we can see, the horrifying sight of the boat all smashed up upside down. But here is the very good news. Steve David is now in the rescue boat. You see him waving there, indicating, I'm okay. And over at the dock, Steve is catching up with the owner, Jim Harvey. Let's go to Steve.
Has anybody talked to Steve?
No, we haven't heard anything yet.
Can't tell much from what we've seen either.
No, we don't have a good, clear picture here.
Okay. We'll hope for the best. We know he's out of the boat anyway.
Thanks.
And we'll hope to have more on Steve David's condition when we come back. The concern here in Seattle right now, of course, for Steve David, who went over just a few moments ago in Heat 3B. Steve Montgomery now is with Steve's daughter, Emma.
Emma, you just talked to your dad and you don't look worried. Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. They think he just has a broken toe, and he says he feels fine.
Nothing wrong other than the foot, though?
They don't think he's going to have to go to the hospital.
Did he tell you what happened?
Yeah, he said it was a really light landing, and he hit Pico's tail, and that's what, or like the back stuff, and so that's what made him go over, but that he feels fine.
Well, that is some very, very good news from Emma David. And in the meantime, the other boats, minus, of course, the Freddies, back on the water for the restart of Heat 3B. Nate Brown in the Lumar window film, the yellow boat there. Appy and Geronimo just behind him with Mitch Evans in the cockpit. And the third boat, Pico American Dream, with Mark Evans. Let's go to Steve.
The wreckage of Steve David's Freddy's Club just arriving back in his pit area as we are preparing for the restart of Heat 3B. Now, it may be Mitch Evans who caught a break here. Remember, he had that winning streak going. He did not make a great start originally in 3B. Let's see if he does better this time.
Coming up to the start, Pico is in the outside. Just about 10 seconds to go. Appy and Geronimo in lane 2. Nate Brown and Lumar window film on the inside in lane 1. Appian starts to step on it.
Again, we would expect the Appy and Geronimo to be the boat with the boat speed, but look at Brother Mark now, the Pico American Dream, coming alive, and he's going to run with him right into that first turn.
In the middle, Appy and Geronimo. On the outside, Pico getting a bit washed. And Nate Brown nice and clean on the inside, moving up with that shorter distance to go. But here comes Appian now, starting to move it out.
You can see from our O'Doul's eye in the sky, the yellow wing on the Appy and Geronimo. That's a teammate wing borrowed from the U-19. Both hulls are Leland hulls, so the wing fits fine, and they are 100% again. Now, earlier, the U-19 has their number on top of the wing, so the team with tape had to change the 19 to a 20, so they'd be legal here.
Maybe not a perfect color scheme, but pretty good in terms of speed. 147 plus the first lap average for Mitch Evans in the Appy and Geronimo. Mark Evans, though, still staying close on the outside in the Pico American Dream.
Again, you never know what to expect from the Leland team, but right here they are running well and running with one of the fastest boats in the fleet this year.
Nate Brown is also pretty close there in the inside lane in the Lumar window film. He has not fallen back much.
Now, when Mitch Evans is out ahead in the Appy and Geronimo, he runs very, very well. The place that his increased seat time will show is when he's racing deck to deck and in close competition with other boats. No problem at all here.
Particularly when it comes down to, say, the red boat.
Exactly.
From the O'Doul's, eye in the sky, one more time around the turn for Mitch Evans and heading toward the checkered flag here in Heat 3B. A nice job of driving for the younger of the two Evans brothers. Not far behind, though, older brother Mark, driving it strong in the Pico. He'll take second. And in the back, third place goes to Nate Brown in the Lumar window film. And as we check the results, Lumar has 750 points to Pico 638 because this is the total of 3 heats so far. Let's go to Steve.
Mitch, I think you caught a break. Your second start was a whole lot better than the first one.
Yeah, well, we got out there and just ran hard. You know, we want to get this thing set up for this final. The water's actually really nice and had a chance to really get out there and leg it a little bit.
So with a little attaboy restart, you're a perfect day so far.
Yeah, can't beat that, huh? Right here in the hometown of Seattle. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great day.
We've talked about nothing being for certain here in Seattle. We've had 3 different winners on the Unlimiteds in the last 3 events, so there's no reason why we couldn't have a 4th. And here's a boat to take a good look at. It is the Newport Bay Restaurant, driven by Phil Bonancini, virtually a brand new boat, driven just twice in races before coming here to Seattle. In the first heat, Phil was a winner. In the second, he raced sponson to sponson with Bo Shine and Alamo before hitting a buoy. If he can keep it together in the final, Phil could pull off the upset. But to do it, he's going to have to beat some fast boats, including this one. George Stratton driving in the Wildfire, Freddy's Club Light here in Seattle. He's also going to have to beat the big-time points leader, Bo Scheid, the Alamo. We'll be right back in our Speed World coverage. Welcome back to Seattle. Ralph's Thunder Tour presented by Las Vegas at the Texaco Cup at Seafair. We're getting set for the start of the Unlimited Lights. John Nicholson and Steve Montgomery The yellow boat there closest to you on the left of your screen is Alamo and Bo Scheid. Mike McClellan, MissVino.com, came in third last week in his hometown of Kelowna and looking for another strong start here. Miss Leroy, Randy Haas, a strong boat, has had some troubles. George Stratton has won a race this year, too, in the Freddy's Club. And here they go. Stratton out in front.
Boy, he was awfully close to the line. If he wasn't early, I thought maybe Dave Bender was close as well. But so far, no word from above. And George Stratton off to a great start here for the Freddy's Club, folks, sponsoring Steve David, who went over in the last heat in the Big Unlimited. This is their light entry, and right now George has it pretty much his way and has the field covered.
Boy, he is driving that a bit light. Very bouncy here. This lake, Lake Washington, like Okanagan Lake, also pretty rough. Miss Leroy, we said Randy Haas had his troubles. There you go. He's out.
They tell us from the tower that at least 4 or 5 boats have jumped the gun. This is one of them. Freddy's Club, sponsored by the casino down at the end of Lake Washington. Their Unlimited went over in the last heat. Now their light boat has been penalized a lap after appearing to have things under control here.
Now they are telling us the only boats that did not jump the start, Bo Scheid in Alamo, Phil Bonancini in Newport Bay Restaurant, and Mike McClellan in MissVino.com. So while this would appear to be our leader, George Stratton, in fact, he is one of 4 boats that are going to have to run an extra lap, and Randy Haas did not get the start.
Our leader then is the red boat, the mini Miss Budweiser, if you will. This is Phil Bonancini in his pocket mechanic racing as a Newport Bay Restaurant. He might not know yet that he's leading this race, but he is on the back straightaway.
You know, I do believe that Phil was my upset special just moments ago. But before I crow too much, when you see every boat or even half the boats finish in one of these Unlimited Lights finals, that's unusual. So we've got a way to go to finish all 3 laps.
It's a brand new boat out of the shop of Ron Jones, a little bit lighter, a little less horsepower than some of the bigger Unlimited Lights, but handling very, very well. Did well last week in Kelowna and continues to improve.
Speaking of Kelowna, Dave Bender, Pete's Wicked Ale, we see there on the right of the screen, won last week in Kelowna. There's Dave, but he's been penalized a lap along with 3 other boats, so not likely to repeat here in Seattle.
Right there, though, going by Phil Bonancini's red boat, he appeared to be slowing down, so Phil may have a problem.
Now here's Mike McClellan, the MissVino.com, racing along with Greg Hopp in the Graham Trucking, but the Graham Trucking also penalized, has 1 more to go. And the MissVino.com is third. And now, oh, sure enough, Phil Bonancini and the Newport Bay Restaurant dead in the water, and that moves Vino.com up to 2nd place behind guess who? Bo Scheid in the Alamo.
So Team Alamo will score its first victory in 3 weeks. That's a long dry spell for them as Bo Scheid heads for the checkered flag 1 more time.
Dave Bender in the Pete's Wicked Ale is racing along with him, but Dave has 1 more lap to go, and Bo is taking the checkered flag. This is where he and owner Ned Allen like to be. Bo Scheid held back, did not jump the gun, winds up winning, and steady, steady, steady. It counts for Mike McClellan of MissVino.com. He gets 2nd, and George Stratton and Freddy's Club gets 3rd. Let's go to Steve.
Ned, a little confusion, but I think they're going to give you the trophy.
Oh, boy, he knows how to start a race. We talked about this a lot and figured it'd get a little confusing up there, and he was right on the numbers.
Yeah! Come on, big boy. I love it, man.
Bo, did you think somebody might be ahead of you a little too early there?
Well, I knew where my clock was, and I was about right on, and I was a little early getting up there, but I knew they had to be 3 or 4 boats over by 4 or 5 seconds, so I just throttled back and figured I'd pick up what I could, and it was a little rough chasing a couple boats down, but once they said the guys that had jumped the gun, all I had to do is hold things together. It's a great win here in Seattle.
Today's Alamo Almanac is brought to you by Alamo Rent-A-Car. It's drive happy time again. Ready, set, go.
Seafair Week in Seattle saw the induction of 3 hydroplane legends into the Hydroplane Hall of Fame, beginning with the Cincinnati muffler man, Jim Kropfeld, who moved from the limited ranks into one of the biggest, heaviest, fastest race boats of all time, the Griffin-powered Budweiser, and became the 4th winningest unlimited hydroplane driver. Bill O'Mara, sports director of King TV, Channel 5 in the 50s and early 60s, became the voice and sometimes conscience of the sport as it swept the hearts and minds of Pacific Northwesterners. And finally, the late Steve Woomer, inducted posthumously. As a youngster, he had made the short walk from the nearby Rainier Valley to watch the legends of the sport race here on Lake Washington. Now he is one. Driver Mark Tate won national driver championships racing for Woomer. Together, they won the Gold Cup multiple times. Steve Woomer inducted posthumously. He will be missed.
The Alamo Almanac has been sponsored by Alamo, where renting a car is fun. Let Alamo put you smiles ahead with drive-happy deals and services. Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas. John Nicholson, Steve Montgomery, Texaco Cup at Seafair in Seattle. Here is the boat to beat. It happened a week ago in Kelowna. The other guys were able to get past the Bud, and Dave Villwock finished third, but this could be a different story. Ken Muscatel, trying to keep up and running strong, has done it well so far. Appy and Geronimo, this looks like the boat that could beat Bud if he can keep it going. 3 heats, 3 wins so far. And Dave Villwock.
Dave will not have to contend with Steve David, who's become somewhat of an arch rival. Steve is in the hospital. We understand he is doing fine. In fact, maybe on his way back to the race course after crashing the Freddy's Club. A lot of speed here, though, John. We just saw the Lumar, which is a quick boat. Jimmy King and the Miss Elam Plus, if he makes a good start, could be a contender here. So there are a lot of potential winners here for this final heat, unless the Budweiser is allowed to make that great start.
Jerry Hale, the Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals, will be the trailer in this championship heat. It is, of course, a winner-take-all 5-lap heat that will serve to stir up the water a bit. Also, it's worth noting we've been talking about 3- and 4-boat heats, and this one will be 6 boats plus a trailer. That could make it difficult for any boat to get a good, solid jump on the rest of the field. Appy and Geronimo, as we come down to 3.5 minutes from the start. Mitch Evans and Mark Evans raced each other a week ago in Heat 2 in Kelowna as Steve David held the Budweiser out. Steve, of course, as Steve Montgomery mentioned a minute ago, is not here. Will there be ganging up? Let's expand on that theme. Steve?
The boat's on the water for the running of the final heat, and a very big question about to be answered. Will Dave Villwock be able to time his start the way he did early in the season and run away with this and take the Texaco Cup at Seafair? Or will the other drivers be able to keep him out of position at the start and someone else come up the winner? We're about to find out.
We are under 3 minutes from finding out now. Here is the trailer boat, Jerry Hale, and the Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals. Pico American Dream continues to be an enigma. When it runs fast, oh boy, watch it run. It came from virtually nowhere a week ago to win in Kelowna.
You know, Jerry Hale last year as a rookie was forced to be a trailer boat and make it go back there for a couple heats just to kind of learn what it's like to be in traffic. So he has some experience back there, but I can tell you, John, he didn't like it, and he is not pleased to be back there.
ESPN Speed World coverage of the Texaco Cup at Seafair has been brought to you by Ralph's First and Savings, first in Southern California. By Las Vegas, anything can happen and usually does when it comes to special events. And by O'Doul's non-alcoholic brew. It's what beer drinkers drink when they're not drinking beer. Welcome back to Ralph's Thunder Tour, presented by Las Vegas. John Nicholson, Steve Montgomery. We are at the Texaco Cup at Seafair. Just about 25 seconds to go to the start, and it looks again, Steve, like most of the boats are just a little early.
Look at Mitch Evans. He was a little late, but he swings very wide. He has a lot of boat speed, and if he has his start timed at all, Mitch Evans is going to have boat speed on the whole field as they come down the front straightaway.
While we were away, Mitch's boat went dead in the water, and he had to restart to get going. That's why he came from so far behind. Here comes the start.
Now everybody picks it up, and the speed is just about equal across the front line. Mitch is leading in the Appy and Geronimo, but he's way, way on the outside.
Pico American Dream is on the inside. Oh, the boats are very close in there. Somebody must have gotten hosed. Now Bud has, ooh, look at the water splashing across the front of the Budweiser cockpit there. To the outside is Dave Villwock. He is trying to find a place to run and how to go outside to do it. Pico American Dream out to a big lead. Jimmy King in the Elam Plus, dead on the water.
In that first turn, there was definitely some crowding going on. I believe that the Elam Plus got into a rooster tail. It might have been Mitch Evans who came across and watched him down a little bit. Look at this great boat race now. Mark Evans has the inside in the Pico. From that position, he might be able to race with the Budweiser.
And in the meantime, we're being told Appy and Geronimo, Mitch Evans has been disqualified.
Well, that would be for that first turn infraction. It looked like Mitch did move in. You remember we mentioned he was way outside. All of a sudden, he was in about lane 4, and that is probably where the infraction came. Now the Budweiser moves ahead, but he's still on the outside.
Dave Villwock starting to open up a bit of a lead. Can Mark Evans make it back up from the inside lane as they come into the back straightaway? 5 laps here in the final, and Evans bears out just a little bit towards Villwock, but Dave's pulling away from him.
Boy, the Pico did not appear to be hooking up and taking off up the back straightaway. The Budweiser handling much better, and that's part of the reason, John, it's not just horsepower, it's the way your boat handles. How much can you keep the prop in the water, pushing the boat forward?
Dave Villwock appears to be answering the question you asked a few minutes ago, Steve. Can he get out ahead and hold it? He didn't get ahead right at the start, but he's got a good lead now. That's Jimmy King in the Elam Plus, a restart. He is, in fact, almost a full lap behind Dave Villwock in the Budweiser.
But running very well as he comes down the front straightaway, matching the red boat in speed. And now we have the Budweiser out ahead. It's going to take some kind of a problem aboard the red boat to keep Dave Villwock from winning the Texaco Cup at Seafair.
Water just a bit rough here on Lake Washington, but there is nobody in front of Villwock as he cruises that boat down the backstretch.
We haven't mentioned the weather or the conditions a lot today. It is a spectacular day in Seattle. The temperature in the low 90s. Lake Washington is a very big, very deep body of water. These conditions, John, are very smooth for this lake. The drivers are pleased with the way the conditions have been all day.
From the O'Doul's eye in the sky, we saw nobody else in the picture with Dave Villwock. That gives you an idea that this could be payback and then some for the Bud.
You can hear the Budweiser fans on the log boom as he comes by. You hear the boat horns blowing. A lot of fans of the Budweiser team, which as many of them are, is based here in the Seattle area. And now coming right at you, Jimmy King and the Elam. Appears, John, that he might have been able to challenge had he not got hosed down in that first turn.
Here comes the boat we thought would be able to challenge Mitch Evans in the Appian Geronimo. For the second consecutive week, he has been disqualified for cutting in on other boats. Nate Brown in the Lumar window film, therefore, is up there in the standings now, running 3rd, and Ken Muscatel in the Tweetons RV Mart is 4th. Ken Muscatel, when he can keep that boat running, and what a terrific effort he and his crew make, always seems to be up there in the standings. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, somewhere.
You know, Dave Villwock ran into trouble at the start of the Kelowna race when Mark Evans came across the front of the field and washed down a couple of boats. Here it was Mitch Evans, and it could have had the same result. But Dave this time was able to dodge the danger and get the Budweiser out ahead. So he's a bit fortunate to be where he is right now.
Although, let's give him some credit, he is also very skilled. And as they say, good luck is the residue of planning. And let me add in skill. Mark Evans in the Pico American Dream. That looks a little rougher than earlier, Steve.
Ironically, for Nate Brown and the Lumar, they had been starting on the inside and getting doused with rooster tails throughout the season. He moved out to about lane 4 for the start of this final, and guess what? Whack right in the face with the Mitch Evans, Appian Geronimo rooster tail. Nate just can't find a place to go racing.
Jerry Hale in the Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals started as the trailer. Now he has moved up in the 5th place because of the disqualification and the penalty on the 2 boats respectively. There is your champion, Dave Villwock in the Miss Budweiser. Wins it just about wire to wire. Did not get off to the start as quickly as he would have liked, but made it up in a great hurry. And a very, very popular result here at the Texaco Cup at Seafair. Pico American Dream, Mark Evans hung in there. He won it here last year, not to be this time, but did manage to hang on and take 2nd place. Elam Plus, Jimmy King is still racing with another lap to go because of the penalty. Nate Brown in the Lumar window film gets himself a 3rd in the championship heat here in Seattle. Mitch Evans is running just to run. Chaplin's Volkswagen Easter Seals, Jerry Hale, yep, he got to 5th and held on to it. And Dave Villwock begins heading back in toward the dock and the celebration with Bernie Little and the rest of the Budweiser group. Totaling up the points, almost a perfect day for Bud, and Pico actually 3rd in points on the day. Lumar window film gets a 2nd. Let's go to Steve with Dave Villwock.
Wonderful. Good job, you guys. Good job. Good job. Good job, Brian.
David, a winner in Seattle. That's got to sound pretty good to you.
That's right. We haven't won here since 1995, boy. And the guys were throwing knives and hatchets and trying to get to us and run over us and everything else the last few weeks. But I tell you what, the crew put an awesome Miss Budweiser together today that was ready to run the distance. I can tell you that for sure.
It was a fairly routine day, except for the one deal at the start line there.
Well, like I said, it's racing. They wanted the clock to start back, and that's what happens.
There is one pumped-up Dave Villwock. Checking the O'Doul's high point standings, already the Miss Budweiser has just about wrapped up the championship for the year. And what about Steve David? Well, he's up and ready to talk with Steve Montgomery. Go ahead, Steves.
Steve, first of all, how are you?
You know, in 32 years of racing, it's the first time I ever cracked anything, but I broke my big toe. That's the foot that operates the pedal that's supposed to keep the boat in the water, and I guess I broke it off trying to keep the thing in the water.
Tell us what happened.
Well, I was in the lead and had just set up for that turn, and apparently hit a little bit of a roller, which got the right spots, and the boat came back down, hit another roller and lifted up, and then the turn fin came out of the water, and when it did, we were just a leaf at God's mercy, and from there, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Jim Harvey says you guys might not miss a race.
No, this team's awfully dedicated, and I don't see the sponsor, Freddie's, letting us miss race either. If need be, we'll lease someone else's race boat, but we'll finish this season, and we're going to beat the red boat again like, we did last week. We would have today, but the Chihuahua will be back.
That's the nickname that some people have given to Steve lately. I tell you, if your heart wasn't in your mouth when Steve went over, you just weren't paying attention. Good news about how it's come out. Don't miss our next broadcast, coming to you from the Budweiser Governor's Cup in Madison, Indiana. That'll be September 30th at 8:30 in the evening Eastern Time. Quite a few big stories here in Seattle. The Budweiser back on track where it expects to be. Steve David goes over, but except for the broken toe, he's okay. There's a happy Dave Villwock with his wife, Pam.
A big relief to see that big Steve David smile after that very, very scary crash. In a couple of minutes, John, where you really don't know what the outcome will be.
Pico American Dream has a win, but hasn't got another. Appy and Geronimo still looking for some answers, and there is the big red boat, still the boat to beat. Stay on the inside track of the UHRA by becoming a member of the Winner's Circle. Just call the number on your screen. Promotional consideration for this broadcast has been provided by Motorola Racing Radios and by Bruce Coach Custom Conversions, official motor coach of the UHRA. For Steve Montgomery, I'm John Nicholson saying so long from Seattle, Washington. We'll see you soon from Madison. So long, Bernie.